The dust of the Wyoming Territory hung in the late afternoon air as Penelope Harper clutched her daughter's hand tighter, the stagecoach behind them already disappearing down the road. It was June 1876, and the setting sun cast long shadows across the single dirt road that constituted the main street of Willow Creek. Penelope's eyes burned from crying, though she'd tried her best to keep her tears hidden from 6-year-old Lily, who hadn't stopped sobbing since they'd left Kansas City 3 days prior. "Mama, I'm scared," Lily whimpered, her small face streaked with dirt and tears, her blonde curls matted from the long journey. "Hush now," Penelope whispered, though her own voice trembled. "We'll find somewhere to stay, I promise." The town wasn't much a general store, a saloon, a small church, and scattered buildings that constituted businesses and homes. Penelope had exactly $3.42 to her name, her wedding ring long since pawned to pay for the stagecoach tickets. Her husband Thomas had been dead for 8 months, consumption taking him slowly and painfully while debt collectors circled like vultures, waiting for him to draw his final breath before seizing their home and most of their possessions. Willow Creek hadn't been her destination. She'd been headed to her cousin's home in Montana, but when the money ran out, this was as far as the stagecoach driver was willing to take them. "Come along, Lily," she said, picking up their single battered suitcase. "Let's see if there's a boarding house." They hadn't taken 3 steps when Lily tripped on a loose board in the walkway and fell hard, scraping her knees. The girl's wails echoed down the dusty street, drawing curious glances from passers-by. "Oh, darling," Penelope knelt beside her daughter, trying to brush the dirt from her torn dress. "It's just a scratch." But Lily was beyond consolation. The fall was merely the final straw after days of travel, strange faces, and the lingering grief of losing her father. She sobbed uncontrollably, her little body shaking. Penelope felt her own composure slipping. Here they were, strangers in a strange town, with no money, no connections, and no prospects. She blinked back tears as she tried to comfort her daughter, unaware of the tall figure approaching until his shadow fell across them both. "Seems like you ladies are having a rough day," a deep voice said. Penelope looked up, squinting against the sun at the silhouette of a man in a wide-brimmed hat. As he stepped closer, she could make out his features' weathered skin, kind blue eyes, and a strong jawline softened by the hint of a smile. He crouched down to Lily's level, careful to keep a respectful distance. "That's quite a tumble you took, little miss," he said, his voice gentle. "I reckon Doc Wilson might have a piece of candy for a brave girl like you if your mama says it's all right." Lily's sobs quieted to hiccups as she regarded the stranger warily. "I'm Owen Reed," he said, turning his attention to Penelope. "I own the livery stable down the street." "Penelope Harper," she replied, rising to her feet and helping Lily up. "And this is my daughter, Lily. We've just arrived from Kansas City." Owen's eyes took in their disheveled appearance, the single suitcase, and the tear-stained faces. Understanding crossed his features. "You folks have a place to stay?" he asked, though the question seemed rhetorical. "We'll find somewhere," Penelope said, lifting her chin. Pride was about all she had left. Owen glanced at Lily, who was still sniffling, then back at Penelope. "Mrs. Holloway runs a boarding house. It's clean and respectable. My sister-in-law works in the kitchen there." He hesitated, then added, "If you're needing work, I hear Mrs. Holloway might be looking for help with the laundry and cooking." Penelope swallowed hard. "Thank you, Mr. Reed. That's very helpful." Owen knelt down to Lily's level again. "You know what, little one? I had a daughter about your age." His voice grew softer. "She and her mama went to heaven a few years back. Sometimes, when I'm feeling lonely, I think about how nice it would be to have someone to tell my stories to." Lily regarded him curiously, her tears momentarily forgotten. "What kind of stories?" "Oh, all kinds. Horse stories, mostly. I've got a new foal at the stable born just last week, little thing with legs like a spider." He smiled. "She's trying to figure out how they work." A tiny smile flickered across Lily's face, Owen stood and looked at Penelope with an expression she couldn't quite read. Mrs. Harper, I don't mean to overstep, but this town could use more good folks. I've been here 10 years now, and I can promise it's a decent place to raise a child. He glanced at Lily, then back at Penelope, his eyes earnest. That little girl there, she's had enough tears for one day. I can see you're in a tough spot. He took a deep breath before continuing. I lost my Sarah and our Emma to the fever 5 years ago, been alone ever since. His voice grew quiet. If you need a friend in this town, both of you, I'd consider it an honor. Penelope felt her throat tighten. Mr. Reed, please, he interrupted gently. Owen, she repeated, the name unfamiliar on her tongue. We've only just met, he nodded. Yes, madam, we have, but I've been where you are alone in a strange place with more troubles than solutions. He looked down at Lily, and something in his expression shifted. That little girl reminds me so much of my Emma. Then, as if the words had been building inside him for years, he said, She's mine too, if you'll let me. Penelope's eyes widened, unsure if she'd heard him correctly. Owen quickly clarified, I mean, I'd like to help. Both of you, no strings attached. He gestured toward the livery stable. I've got rooms above the stable. Clean, private. You can stay there while you get settled, find your feet. I'll take my bedroll to the office downstairs. Before Penelope could respond, he added, And I'd consider it a personal favor if you'd let me show that little one the new foal. Might help dry those tears. Penelope should have said no. Every instinct told her to politely decline, to maintain her independence, to not accept charity from a stranger, a man, no less. But Lily looked up at her with the first spark of interest she'd shown in months, and Penelope was so very tired of carrying the weight of their lives alone. Perhaps. We could see this foal you mentioned, she said cautiously, and I would be grateful for directions to Mrs. Holloway's boarding house. Owen's face brightened. Of course. May I? He asked, gesturing to their suitcase. Penelope nodded, releasing her grip on the worn handle. As they walked down the street, Lily still sniffling occasionally, Owen spoke in a low voice. Mrs. Harper, I want to be clear. I'm offering help, not making assumptions. This town's full of good people who look out for each other. I'd do the same for anyone. I understand, Penelope replied, though she wasn't sure she did. In her experience, men didn't offer help without expecting something in return. But there was something in Owen Reed's eyes, a sincerity, a shadow of old pain that made her want to believe him. They turned down a side street, the smell of hay and horses growing stronger. The livery stable was a large wooden structure, well-maintained, with a corral to one side where several horses grazed in the evening light. Here we are, Owen said, setting down the suitcase and opening the wide doors. My humble establishment. The interior was cool and dim after the bright sunlight, the sweet smell of hay mingling with leather and horses. Several stalls lined both sides, most occupied by horses of various colors and sizes. The foal's in the back with her mama, Owen said, leading them through the center aisle. In the last stall, a chestnut mare stood protectively over a gangly, spotted foal whose legs did indeed seem too long for its body. The foal peered curiously at them through the slats. Oh. Lily gasped, her tears forgotten. She's beautiful, Owen smiled. She sure is. Her name's Starlight, on account of that white spot on her forehead shaped like a star. Lily pressed her face between the wooden slats, entranced. For the first time since Thomas died, Penelope saw genuine delight on her daughter's face. Can I touch her? Lily asked, looking up at Owen with wide eyes. If your mama says it's all right, Owen replied, glancing at Penelope. The mare's gentle as can be. Penelope hesitated, then nodded. Be careful, Lily. Owen opened the stall door just enough to let Lily slip through. He followed, keeping a protective hand near her shoulder as he guided her to the mare's side. Slow and easy, he instructed. Let her smell your hand first. That's how horses say hello. Lily giggled as the mare's soft muzzle tickled her palm. Then Owen helped her stroke the foal's neck, his large hand covering her tiny one. Watching them, Penelope felt something shift inside her, the first crack in the wall of wariness she'd built around herself and Lily. This man, this stranger, had done what she couldn't. He'd made her daughter laugh again. As the evening shadows lengthened, Penelope found herself accepting Owen's offer of the rooms above the stable. "Just until we find our feet," she insisted, and he nodded, respecting her pride. The rooms were simple but clean: a small sitting area, a bedroom with a narrow but comfortable-looking bed, and a tiny kitchen with a wood stove. It was more than she'd hoped for when they'd stepped off the stagecoach. "Bathrooms out back," Owen explained. "There's a pump for water, and I keep the woodpile stocked. It's not fancy, but it's private." "It's perfect," Penelope said softly. "Thank you." "I'll leave you ladies to get settled," Owen said, heading for the door. "There's bread and some stew in the cupboard, and Mrs. Harper—" "Yes." "Welcome to Willow Creek." After he left, Penelope sat on the edge of the bed, overcome by the events of the day. She'd arrived with nothing but her daughter and a suitcase, and now they had shelter, the prospect of work, and a strange cowboy who looked at her daughter as if she were his own. "Mama," Lily said, climbing onto the bed beside her. "I like Mr. Owen, he's nice." "Yes," Penelope agreed, stroking her daughter's hair. "He seems to be. And Mama," Lily's voice grew quieter, "I don't feel so sad anymore." Penelope pulled her daughter close, her own tears finally falling freely. "That's good, my love. That's very good." Outside, the sun set on their first day in Willow Creek, casting long shadows across the town that would become their home. Morning came with the sounds of horses nickering and the scent of coffee wafting up from below. Penelope woke disoriented, momentarily forgetting where they were until Lily stirred beside her. "Mama, can we see starlight again?" were her daughter's first words, and Penelope couldn't help but smile. "After breakfast," she promised, amazed at the transformation in her daughter. The tear-stained, despondent child of yesterday had been replaced by an eager, bright-eyed girl. They dressed quickly in their second-best clothes, which weren't much better than their traveling outfits, and Penelope did her best to brush the tangles from Lily's curls. Then they ventured downstairs, following the aroma of coffee and something delicious baking. They found Owen in the small office adjacent to the stables, frying bacon on a small stove. He looked up when they entered, his face brightening. "Good morning, ladies," he said, tipping his hat. "Hope you slept well." "We did, thank you," Penelope replied, suddenly conscious of her wrinkled dress and hastily pinned hair. "I made breakfast," Owen said, gesturing to the pan. "Nothing fancy, but it's hot." "You didn't have to do that," Penelope protested. "Wanted to," he replied simply. "Coffee's ready too. And there's milk for the little one." They ate at a small table in the office, the conversation easier than Penelope would have expected. Owen explained his business breeding and training horses, shoeing them, boarding them for travelers, while Lily peppered him with questions about Starlight. "She's going to be a fine horse," Owen told her. "Smart and strong." "Will someone buy her?" Lily asked, concern in her voice. Owen glanced at Penelope before answering. "Well, that's usually how it works. But sometimes, if a horse is special, I keep them." "Starlight's special," Lily declared with the certainty only a child could muster. Owen smiled. "She sure is." After breakfast, Penelope insisted on washing the dishes while Owen took Lily to visit the foal again. Through the window, she could see them in the corral. Owen's tall figure bent attentively as he showed Lily how to offer an apple to the mare. A sense of unease prickled at her. It wasn't natural, this immediate connection, this ease. In her experience, good things didn't just happen, especially not to widows with no money and no prospects. Yet here they were, receiving kindness from a stranger who looked at her daughter with something like longing, something like love. She was so lost in thought that she didn't hear Owen return until he cleared his throat softly. "Mrs. Harper," he said, "I've got to make some deliveries in town. Thought you might want to come along, see about that job at Mrs. Holloway's." Penelope nodded. "Yes, thank you." "And please call me Penelope." His smile was warm. Penelope, then. The walk into town was pleasant in the morning light. Lily skipped ahead, stopping to examine wildflowers growing alongside the path, while Owen and Penelope followed at a more sedate pace. "May I ask what brought you to Willow Creek?" Owen inquired. "Most folks pass through on their way to somewhere else." Penelope hesitated, then decided honesty was the simplest course. "My husband died last fall. Consumption. There were debts. The bank took our home." She kept her voice steady with effort. "I was headed to my cousin's place in Montana, but the money ran out here." Owen was quiet for a moment. "I'm sorry about your husband. Thank you. And your cousin in Montana, they're expecting you?" Penelope shook her head. "Not exactly. We've exchanged letters over the years, but I haven't seen Beatrice since we were girls. I wasn't sure where else to go." Owen nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Sometimes life leaves us with few choices." "Yes," Penelope agreed softly, "but sometimes that's when the right path reveals itself." They reached the town, which looked more welcoming in the morning light. Owen greeted several people by name as they passed, introducing Penelope and Lily as new folks in town, staying at the livery for now. Mrs. Holloway's boarding house was a 2-story white clapboard building with a neat garden and a wide front porch. The proprietress herself answered the door, a stout woman with silver-streaked black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Owen Reed," she said, wiping her hands on her apron. "Twice in 1 week. To what do I owe the pleasure?" "Morning, Mrs. Holloway. I've brought someone who might be interested in that position you mentioned." Mrs. Holloway's gaze shifted to Penelope, assessing her from head to toe. "You cook?" "Yes, madam," Penelope replied. "And I can clean and keep accounts." Mrs. Holloway's eyebrows rose slightly. "Educated, are you?" "My father was a schoolteacher." The older woman nodded thoughtfully. "And the child?" "My daughter Lily. She's 6. Mrs. Holloway studied Lily for a long moment, then looked back at Penelope. "Job pays room and board plus $2 a week. Hours are long. Sundays off. I'm not afraid of hard work," Penelope said firmly. "No, I don't suppose you are." Mrs. Holloway's expression softened slightly. "Can you start tomorrow?" Relief flooded through Penelope. "Yes, madam, thank you. Good, be here at 5 to help with breakfast." Mrs. Holloway glanced at Owen. "You vouching for her, Reed?" "Yes, madam," he replied without hesitation. "That's good enough for me." She turned back to Penelope. "What about the little one?" Penelope hadn't thought that far ahead. "She can stay with me during the day," Owen offered. "At the livery, if that's all right with you, Penelope." "I want to stay with Mr. Owen and Starlight," Lily piped up. Mrs. Holloway looked between them, her expression unreadable. "Well, that's settled then. See you tomorrow, Mrs. Harper." As they walked back toward the livery, Penelope struggled with conflicting emotions. Relief at finding work so quickly warred with concern about leaving Lily with a man they'd just met, no matter how kind he seemed. "I don't want to impose on you, Owen," she said finally. "Watching a child is no small thing." "It's no imposition," he assured her. "I meant what I said yesterday. This town could use more good folks, and Lily reminds me." He trailed off, then continued more quietly. "I've been alone a long time. Having someone around the livery again, it would be good for me too." There was something in his voice, a raw honesty that resonated with her own loneliness. Still, she couldn't quite shake her wariness. "I should find more permanent arrangements soon," she said. "The rooms above the livery, Lily staying with you during the day, it's very generous, but temporary," Owen finished for her. "I understand." He stopped walking and turned to face her. "Penelope, I don't want you to feel beholden. Anything I offer, you're free to accept or refuse. No obligations either way." Lily had run ahead to pet a dog tied outside the general store, out of earshot. "Why are you helping us?" Penelope asked directly. "The truth, please." Owen removed his hat, running a hand through his hair, a gesture she was beginning to recognize as a sign he was choosing his words carefully. "When I lost Sarah and Emma," he said finally, "this town carried me. Mrs. Holloway brought food every day for weeks. Doc Wilson came by just to talk." Sheriff Daniels made sure I wasn't drinking myself to death. He put his hat back on. I couldn't save my family, but maybe I can help yours, that's all. The simplicity of his answer, the lack of artifice, struck her deeply. I'm sorry about your wife and daughter. It was a long time ago, he said, though his eyes said otherwise. Mama, look, Lily called, breaking the moment. She was pointing excitedly at a display in the general store window, a beautiful doll with a porcelain face and real fabric dress. Penelope's heart sank. Such a simple thing, a doll, but so far beyond her means right now. It's lovely, dear, she called back. Come along now. As they continued toward the livery, Owen said casually, You know, I've got some wood scraps in the shop. Used to whittle toys for. Well, I could show Lily how to make a simple doll if she'd like. Penelope looked at him in surprise. You whittle, he shrugged. Winter nights are long. Man needs hobbies. For the first time since meeting him, Penelope smiled genuinely. I think Lily would love that. The next few weeks fell into a pattern. Penelope rose before dawn to walk to the boarding house, where she helped prepare breakfast for the lodgers, then spent the day cooking, cleaning, and assisting Mrs. Holloway. The work was hard but satisfying, and Mrs. Holloway, though stern, was fair. Lily spent her days at the livery with Owen, where she appointed herself Starlight's official caretaker. Each evening when Penelope returned, Lily would excitedly recount the day's adventures helping Owen groom the horses, learning to feed them properly, watching him shoe a particularly stubborn stallion. And look what we made, Mama. Lily had exclaimed one evening, proudly displaying a small wooden horse Owen had helped her carve. It was rough but recognizable, and the pride in her daughter's face was worth more than gold. Owen insisted they continue staying in the rooms above the livery. No sense spending your wages on lodging when these rooms are just sitting empty. He'd argued when Penelope had tried to discuss paying rent. Instead, she found other ways to repay his kindness, cooking extra portions to bring him dinner, mending his shirts when she noticed frayed cuffs, keeping the rooms spotless. If Owen noticed these small gestures, he never commented, simply accepting them with the same quiet grace with which he'd offered his help. By the end of July, Penelope had saved nearly $12, not enough to restart their journey to Montana, but a start. She kept the money in a small tin box hidden beneath a loose floorboard, adding to it each week, though with decreasing resolve. The truth, which she was reluctant to admit even to herself, was that Willow Creek was beginning to feel like home. It was on a Sunday afternoon, her day off, when everything changed. Penelope and Lily had attended church that morning, another routine they'd fallen into, and afterward, Owen had invited them on a picnic by the creek that gave the town its name. Perfect day for it, he'd said, already prepared with a basket Mrs. Holloway had helped him pack. That is, if you ladies don't have other plans. They didn't, and so the three of them found themselves settled on a blanket beneath a willow tree, the gentle sound of water flowing nearby. Lily had immediately gone to explore the shallows, searching for interesting rocks and leaving Penelope and Owen alone. She's happier, Owen observed, watching Lily splash in the creek. Both of you are, Penelope nodded. Yes, I didn't realize how much we'd been surviving, not living. She glanced at him. Thank you for that. You did the hard part, he said. Coming here, starting over, takes courage or desperation, she replied with a wry smile. Owen laughed, a sound she'd come to enjoy hearing. Sometimes they're the same thing. They sat in companionable silence for a moment, watching Lily. Then Owen cleared his throat. Penelope, there's something I've been meaning to ask you. She turned to look at him, noting the unusual seriousness in his expression. Yes, you've been here almost 2 months now. I know you were headed to Montana, to your cousin's place. He hesitated. Are you still planning to go? The question caught her off guard, though it was one she'd been asking herself with increasing frequency. I'm not sure, she admitted. When we arrived, I thought Willow Creek would just be a temporary stop. But now, he prompted gently when she trailed off. Now it feels different. Lily is happy here. She talks about Starlight constantly, and Mrs. Holloway has been teaching her to bake cookies on my day off. Penelope smiled at the memory. And I have steady work, a place to stay. You could have more, Owen said quietly. Penelope looked at him questioningly. A home, I mean, not just rooms above a livery. He took a deep breath. My place is about a mile outside town. Nothing fancy, a small house, some land, the horse pastures. It's been just me there since. Well, for a long time. Owen, let me finish, please, he said, his voice gentle but determined. I know this might seem sudden to you, but it's not for me. I've been alone 5 years. Thought I'd stay that way. Then you and Lily stepped off that stagecoach and something woke up inside me. He looked out at Lily, who was now trying to build a small dam with rocks. That little girl brought life back to my days. And you, Penelope, you're the strongest woman I've ever met. Beautiful too, though I don't think you see it. Penelope felt her cheeks warm. Owen, I'm not asking for an answer today, he continued, just asking you to think about staying, permanently. He finally met her eyes directly. I care for you both, more than I thought possible. If there's any chance you might feel the same someday. Before Penelope could respond, Lily came running back to the blanket, her skirt hem wet, clutching a smooth, heart-shaped stone. Look what I found, she exclaimed, dropping to her knees between them. It's a heart like in my picture book. Owen examined the stone with exaggerated seriousness. It surely is. That's a special find, Lily. You can have it, Lily said, pressing the stone into his large palm, because I like you. Owen's expression softened as he closed his fingers around the stone. Thank you, Lily. I'll keep it always. He glanced at Penelope over Lily's head, and in that moment, she saw everything he felt for them, not just affection or kindness, but love, as steady and true as the mountains on the horizon. The moment was broken by the distant sound of hoofbeats approaching rapidly. Owen stood, shading his eyes against the sun as a rider came into view. That's young Jimmy Taylor, he said, frowning, riding like the devil's on his tail. The boy, no more than 15, reined his horse to a stop near their picnic spot. Mr. Reed, he called, breathless. Sheriff Daniels sent me to find you. There's trouble in town. What kind of trouble? Owen asked, already gathering their picnic things. Men rode in about an hour ago, Jimmy explained, his words tumbling out. 4 of them. Started drinking at the saloon, then got rough with one of the girls. Sheriff tried to settle them down, but they pulled guns. Got him pinned down in the jailhouse now. Owen's expression darkened. Anyone hurt? Not yet, but they're threatening to burn the place down with the sheriff inside if he doesn't release their friend, a fella sheriff arrested last week for horse thieving. I know the one, Owen said grimly. He turned to Penelope. I need to help. Take Lily back to the livery and stay there. Lock the doors. Fear clutched at Penelope's heart. Owen, it'll be all right, he assured her, though his eyes betrayed his concern. Jimmy, take Mrs. Harper and her daughter to the livery, then ride out to the Peterson place. Get Patrick and his boys. Yes, sir, Jimmy replied. Owen helped Penelope and Lily onto Jimmy's horse, then handed up their picnic basket. I'll come for you when it's safe, he promised, his hand lingering on Penelope's for a moment longer than necessary. Then he was on his own horse, riding hard toward town, while Jimmy took them in the opposite direction, toward the livery stable. The next hours were the longest of Penelope's life. She and Lily huddled in the small office at the livery, doors locked as Owen had instructed. Lily fell asleep eventually, curled on Owen's cot in the corner, but Penelope remained awake, straining to hear any sounds from town. It was well after dark when she heard hoofbeats approaching. She tensed. Reaching for the shotgun Owen kept behind the door, only relaxing when she heard his familiar voice calling her name. She unlocked the door with trembling hands. Owen stood there, his face dirty and a dark stain on his shirt sleeve that she instantly recognized as blood. You're hurt, she gasped, pulling him inside. It's nothing, he assured her, just a graze. What happened? She asked, leading him to a chair and already reaching for the medical supplies she knew he kept in a cabinet. It's over, he said wearily. 2 of them are dead. The other 2 surrendered when Patrick and his boys showed up. Sheriff's got them locked up now. Penelope's hands stilled as she processed his words. Dead, Owen nodded grimly. They didn't leave much choice, had torches ready to set the jailhouse afire. He winced as she helped him remove his shirt, revealing a bloody furrow across his upper arm. One of them was a fair shot. As she cleaned and bandaged his wound, Penelope was overwhelmed by the realization of how close she'd come to losing him, this man who had become so important to both her and Lily in such a short time. "I was afraid," she admitted quietly. "When you rode off, I was afraid you wouldn't come back." Owen's good hand covered hers where it rested on his bandaged arm. "I'll always come back to you, Penelope, long as you want me to." She looked up to meet his gaze, seeing in it the same emotion that was making her heart race. Without thinking, she leaned forward and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was gentle, tentative at first, then deepening as Owen's hand moved to cup her face. When they finally parted, both a little breathless, Penelope saw a new light in his eyes. "I've been wanting to do that since the first week you were here," he confessed, a slight smile playing at his lips. "Why didn't you?" she asked. "Didn't want to rush you, didn't want you to think that's why I was helping." Penelope smiled. "And now I'm hoping you'll consider my proposal. Not just for a home, but for a family. You, me, and Lily." He took her hand in his. "I love that little girl like she was my own, Penelope, and I'm falling in love with her mother, too." The words, spoken so plainly, so honestly, brought tears to Penelope's eyes. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll think about it," Owen suggested. "Say you'll give us a chance." From the corner, Lily's sleepy voice interrupted. "Mama, is Mr. Owen back?" They turned to see the little girl sitting up, rubbing her eyes. "I'm here, Lily Flower," Owen said, using the nickname he'd given her weeks ago. "Everything's all right now." Lily climbed from the cot and came to stand beside them, her eyes widening at the sight of Owen's bandaged arm. "You're hurt." "Just a scratch," he assured her. "Your mama fixed me up good as new." Lily looked between them, seeming to sense the changed atmosphere. "Were you kissing?" she asked with a child's directness. Penelope felt heat rise to her cheeks, but Owen just smiled. "Yes, madam, we were. Is that all right with you?" Lily considered this seriously. "Does that mean you're going to be my new papa?" The question hung in the air, loaded with possibility. Owen looked at Penelope, letting her take the lead. "Would you like that, Lily?" Penelope asked carefully. Lily nodded emphatically. "Yes, then we could stay here forever with Starlight and all the horses." Owen laughed softly. "It's not just about the horses, little one." "I know," Lily said with surprising wisdom. "It's because you love us and we love you." Penelope's breath caught, out of the mouths of babes. "Do you, Lily?" Owen asked, his voice thick with emotion. "Do you love me?" "Of course," Lily replied, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. "You're our cowboy." Owen's eyes shimmered with unshed tears as he opened his arms, and Lily climbed into his lap, careful of his injured arm. He looked over her head at Penelope, a question in his eyes. In that moment, Penelope knew her answer. The journey that had begun in tears was leading to joy. The stagecoach might have brought them to Willow Creek by chance, but it wasn't chance that was keeping them here, it was love. "Yes," she said softly, joining the embrace. "He is our cowboy." The months that followed were filled with change and growth. Penelope continued working at the boarding house, while Owen made preparations at his ranch, repainting the bedroom that would be Lily's, expanding the garden, fixing the roof that had leaked the past 2 winters. They were married on a crisp October morning in the small church, with most of the town in attendance. Mrs. Holloway baked the wedding cake, and Doc Wilson gave the bride away. Lily, dressed in a new blue dress that matched her eyes, carried a bouquet of late wildflowers and stood proudly beside her mother throughout the ceremony. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Owen kissed Penelope with a tenderness that spoke of promises kept and a future full of hope. Then he knelt before Lily. "I've got something for you," he said, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a small carved wooden horse, a perfect replica of Starlight, now nearly grown. "I made this to remember today, the day we officially became a family." Lily threw her arms around his neck. "I love it." "And I love you, Papa." The words spoken for the first time brought fresh tears to Owen's eyes. He lifted Lily into his arms and, with his new wife beside him, walked out of the church into their future. Their ranch, once quiet and haunted by memories, became filled with laughter and life. Penelope planted flowers where Sarah's garden had been, not to erase the past, but to honor it while creating something new. Owen taught Lily to ride, starting with a gentle pony before graduating her to a small mare of her own when she turned 8. 2 years after their wedding, Penelope gave birth to a son they named Thomas Owen Reed, in honor of both the father Lily had lost and the father who had claimed her as his own. Lily approached her role as big sister with the same enthusiasm she brought to everything, reading to baby Tom and helping Penelope with his care. As the children grew, so did the ranch. Owen's reputation as a horse breeder spread, bringing buyers from as far as Denver. Penelope started a small business selling preserves and baked goods in town, her apple pies becoming particularly famous throughout the county. Starlight grew into a magnificent mare, and true to his word, Owen never sold her. She became Lily's special companion, and when Lily turned 12, she helped deliver Starlight's first foal, a colt with the same star-shaped mark on his forehead. Life wasn't always easy. There were droughts that threatened the hayfields, winters harsh enough to keep them snowbound for weeks, and the normal challenges of raising children in the still wild West. But through it all, they faced each challenge together, the family that had been formed that day on a dusty street when a woman arrived with a daughter in tears, and a cowboy saw in them the chance to heal his broken heart. On the evening of their 10th anniversary, Owen and Penelope sat on the porch of their ranch house, watching the sunset paint the Wyoming sky in hues of gold and crimson. Lily, now 16 and blossoming into a beautiful young woman, was helping 8-year-old Tom with his reading inside. Their youngest, 4-year-old Sarah Emma, named for the family that had come before, was already asleep. "Do you ever think about it?" Owen asked, his hand finding Penelope's as it had thousands of times over the years. "How different things might have been if you'd made it to Montana." Penelope squeezed his fingers. "Sometimes, but then I remember that stagecoach breaking down was the best stroke of luck in my life." Owen smiled. "Not luck, fate." She leaned her head against his shoulder, content in the life they'd built together. "Do you remember what you said to me that first day, about Lily? That she was mine too, if you'd let me," Owen recalled, his voice soft with the memory. "I was so scared then, afraid to trust, afraid to hope." Penelope looked toward the house, where the sounds of their children's laughter drifted through the open windows. "But you showed me that sometimes family is what you choose, what you build together." Owen kissed her temple. "Best choice I ever made." As night fell over the ranch, the stars appearing one by one in the vast Wyoming sky, Penelope thought about the long journey that had brought her here. From the sorrow of widowhood to the joy of new love, from a tearful arrival in a strange town to the deep roots they'd planted in this community. They had arrived with nothing but each other and left behind the grief that had shadowed them. In its place, they had found a love that encompassed not just the two of them, but the children they raised together and the life they'd built. And it had all begun with a simple, heartfelt offer from a lonely cowboy who had seen in a tearful little girl the daughter he had lost, and in her weary mother, the chance for a new beginning. "I love you, Owen Reed," Penelope whispered into the gathering darkness. "And I love you, Penelope Reed," he replied, his arm tightening around her shoulders. "Always have, always will." Together, they watched the stars emerge, surrounded by the home and family they had created, proof that even the most difficult journeys could lead to the most beautiful destinations.